Hello students, is algebra confusing to you? Or even if you know how to solve algebra, there are cases when we often misunderstand the terms or sometimes we even misunderstand the question. What exactly is algebra and how are we supposed to approach it? Through this video, I want to discuss all the basic terms of algebra, and I'm also going to discuss the most common mistakes that students make in algebra about understanding things. Okay, it is one of the most mark scoring topic we have, and in IGCSE you want to have a strong hold on this part. So from today onwards you will not have to deal with problems on algebra. I want you to be very confident after watching this video. So stick till the end of this video so that you can really be very strong about the concept and you get full marks on this, on every kind of questions that they ask you. So first of all, what is algebra? You must have seen that in algebra we use letters. Why? Because we don't know every other value. Like for example, if you're going to the market, then you don't know how much money will be used in your fare. You don't know how much of money you'll be using to buy some groceries. We definitely need some unknowns to represent some figures that we don't know. This is how algebra is started. We use unknown letters to represent the things that we don't know. So these letters are called variables. So variable is the very first term you want to understand in algebra. What are variables? If you see any expression, or in mathematics if you are writing anything with the help of letters, that are simply your variables. Okay, for example, if I say 7x plus 3y, I'm using the letters x and y. They are just called variables. Whereas the numbers we use along the variables, they are fixed values. Okay, these values, they are not variables. We simply call them constant. Now, why do we even need them? Let's say, for example, you're going to the market to buy some apples and bananas. Your mom has told you to get 7 dozens of apples and 3 dozens of bananas. But because you don't know the cost, of each dozen of apples and bananas, you will simply call them as, okay, I'm gonna spend 7 times the cost per dozen of apples to buy the total apples, and likewise I'm gonna use 3 times the cost of 1 dozen of bananas to spend in buying 3 dozens of that. So in such scenarios, you have now created an expression. So this overall thing, 7x plus 3y, is now called an expression. Now, a lot of my students go wrong in understanding expressions and equations. I'll come to the equations after we understand an expression. So as I told you, expressions are meant to express something. It's telling us something, right? It's describing something. Now, let's say your mom has given you a total of $50 to spend buying these items. Then we'll just say that the total amount spent on buying this will be equal to $50. Now, the very same thing, when I wrote it with the help of an equal to sign, this now becomes an equation. So this is the very important thing. You want to understand the difference between expression and equation. Okay? Why? Because they are not used in the same scenario. An expression just expresses something, but now when I know the total value of this expression is equal to something, or maybe this expression is equal to another expression, that whole thing with an equality in between becomes an equation. Please remember that, because when question says simplify the expression, it just means there is an expression given to you, not with an equality. But as soon as you have that equal to sign, it becomes an equation, which is quite something I can solve. Now, if I'll ask you, you have 3 dozens of apples, okay, and you don't know the cost of the apples, and you have 4 dozens of bananas. You don't know the cost of bananas. Now, imagine if you go to the market, you are pretty confident that they might not cost you the same amount, right? So when two things are different, I will use 2 different letters to represent the 2 different things. Note that 2 different letters represent different things. If they are same, then we will not use different letters. When I'm using different letters, they cannot be solved further. Why? 3x plus 4y, because x is different, y is different. I cannot solve them together to get something as 7xy. This is the most common mistake my students make when they are starting with algebra. Don't ever make this mistake. This is completely wrong. Why? Because it's not possible to add two things when I have two unknowns. Imagine, for example, if I have 3 dozens of eggs and 4 liters of milk and I ask you to add them, it is so irrelevant. You cannot add two different things with two different units. Like, for example, if I ask you to add $3 with 100 rupees or 5 pounds, then you cannot add those two things. Similarly, when two things have two different variables, you don't add them together. When can you add two of them together is when they have the same variables. So let's say if I give you 3x plus 4x. Let's say you bought 3 dozens of apples and 4 dozens of bananas at the same amount. If the price of apples and bananas are the same, then I can say that it is equal to the same variable. I'll use the same variable to represent in that scenario. These kind of terms can be added along. You can add them. You have 3 units of something and 4 units of the same thing. That gives you the total as 7x. So this is when you simplify two terms to get one term in total. These terms with the same variables, we call them as like terms. Okay. Now you must be wondering, what are even terms? Terms are just something that are added or subtracted along. For example, 3x and 4x. They are two terms which can be combined to give you one term. Alright. Whereas 3x plus 4y, you cannot add them together. So they are called as unlike terms because they cannot be simplified together. Now in your exam, what kind of question do you have based on this? Is they'll tell you simplify the expression 7x plus 3y minus 5x plus 4y. If you have a question like this, they want you to simplify. Now, what is the meaning of simplifying? Simplifying is just reducing terms into one term wherever possible. So clearly, as I told you, only the like terms can be solved together. 7x and 5x. I can bring them together. I'm supposed to subtract the sign. This is one very important thing my students often misunderstand. They think that this minus belongs to 3y, or they are not sure if this minus belongs to even 5x. So remember one thing, whatever sign we have in front of a term, that is the exact sign we are to consider. Like if you look at the first term 7x, there is no sign, which means it's just plus 7, okay? So I'm actually dealing with plus 7x minus 5x together. When I deal with them together, I just get, all I have to do is just do plus 7 minus 5, which is simply 2x, because 7 minus 5 is 2. So when you solve the two terms together, it's like 7 kg minus 5 kg. The answer is 2 kg. It cannot be 2 rupees or $2, correct? So that logic makes sense why we can add the like terms and give the same value to the final answer. Likewise, if you look at 3y plus 4y, both have the same sign. Same sign means you just add them up. So 3 plus 4 is 7. Answer is 2x plus 7y. This is the most common kind of questions they ask you in paper 2 particularly, and you really don't need a calculator for this, okay? Likewise, sometimes they want to make things a little tricky by adding more variables like 7x square y plus 3xy square minus 2x square y. Now you might be telling me that, oh, all the terms have x and y, so they are all like terms. Well, it's actually not. Why? Because x square y represents something different than xy square. So note that when there is a square particularly raised on a variable, then the square belongs to just that variable and not the group entirely. What I mean, there is a difference in writing things as xy squared and xy whole squared. Okay, there is a difference here. They are two different things. You clearly see that the first term has 2 x's multiplied with 1 y, while the second term has 1 x multiplied with 2 y's. Okay, so now what do you see? You want to identify the like terms here. So when you want to identify the like terms, you look at the group of the variables you have and you want to have the same group, x square y, x square y. The two terms are 7 minus 2, so you just have to deal with numbers. 7 minus 2 is 5. So 5x squared y is our answer for the two like terms. While I have nothing to add with this term, so I'll have to keep that term as it is, plus 3xy squared. So this is how we begin with algebra, understanding terms. So how many terms do we have in the question? We have 3 terms. Terms are differentiated by this plus and minus, okay? Like 2x squared y, why is that not 3 different terms? Because they are multiplying. So when multiplication is occurring, then that is just a single term. 2x square y is just one single term. Like, where does it come from? It comes from BODMAS. In BODMAS, what do? Whenever there is multiplication and addition, multiplication is done first because that two things will combine together and gives you a single term, and upon adding and subtracting things, we just do that later. So remember, upon multiplying, you don't make two different terms. It's only the plus minus that gives you the terms different. This is how you simplify terms. I hope you have understood so far. Please like, share this video and subscribe to our channel for more coming videos.